I realize it's been a while since my last soapbox video, so there's no better time to bring it back than the present moment. This is where I take something I see in pop culture discourse and discuss it with whatever relevant examples I have. In today's edition, I want to talk about one of the internet's favorite topics, correct opinions. If you're a semi-normal person, you probably know that in the realm of video games there is no such thing because, sorry for the spoiler, but video games aren't that serious. It ain't that deep, I'm afraid. I guess you could end the video right there, but I want to dig a little deeper and specifically talk about bad games, because yeah, some games are better than others, but with interactive entertainment, everyone's going to have a somewhat different experience with it, so some games that might have been deemed bad by a majority can still be enjoyed by a minority of people. I obviously think many games suck and have said as much in past videos, but I'd say most of my work is pretty positive these days. But in the last year, I've been thinking about games deemed bad that I might have something else to say about, and games people don't like that I also didn't, and games that people do like that I don't. And let's start with the biggest and most obvious example. In late 2020, I published my 2-hour review of Sonic the Hedgehog 2006. It was titled Why I Like Sonic 06. In the near half-decade since that video released, I think the overall message has been kinda lost in the sauce, so I wanted to take this segment as the chance to talk about it. A lot of snap judgments are made about this video, like it being a 2-hour-long defense of why Sonic 06 is actually a based and epic masterpiece, and you all just don't get that it had passion and ambition, man! Unfortunately, that was something that I simply never said. Even by people who did watch and enjoy the video, they seemed to be taken aback when I used Sonic 06 as a negative example regularly in later Sonic videos. But I think the devil is in the details. If you watch my Sonic 06 video, which I have not in a long-ass time, but I made the thing, so I can tell you for certain that it was never a defense of the game's poor qualities. The video talks pretty openly about them. It discusses how Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 was a failure and that the game soared for the stars and crashed and burned because of rushed development and poor management, and it got the reception it deserved. It was not a good game for a plethora of reasons. Just talking about the gameplay alone, I said this. But then comes the new problem. The gameplay isn't fun. In the minutes that followed, I detailed how the controls feel bad to use because the characters are slow and the movement is too precise, and they don't gain or lose speed on inclines. Everything is just not how it should be. The video also detailed how the game was a technical dumpster fire with poor optimization and glitches galore. It went into the various story details that were supremely undercooked and made for a convoluted plot. But then, why was it called Why I Like Sonic 06? That was because of what the rest of the video was about. I was one of the many kids who played Sonic 06 on Xbox 360 back when it was new. When you're a kid, you genuinely don't care about this stuff. It's Sonic, you're gonna play it. Adapting to the crap factor instead of returning the game to the store like an adult might. Keep in mind, as a kid, I actually had played 06 before the Sonic Adventure games, so this was one of the biggest and most epic games I had played during my formative years. It took me 2 years to beat the game. In that time of playing it and replaying the levels, you just learn strats, like jumping over this part of Flame Core to skip the automation at the beginning. You learn what's up with the silver boss fight before you even learn what the phrase bad game design means. As a teen watching YouTube, I loved watching critics bash 06 because it was funny and entertaining, and they were right, and I'd be all like, yeah, 06 is one of the worst games ever! But then, in 2020, I could play 06 and think, man, this game is really awful, but I can't pretend I hate it. I have too many positive memories of playing it as a kid to say that. I went into this in that video, but I was a pretty anxious kid a lot of the time regarding things that may or may not happen in the future. For that reason, I found Shadow's story really compelling as Mephiles tries to use that kind of anxiety against Shadow. Maybe his friends will turn on him in the future, but his not backing down and keeping his faith in them while putting everything he's got into fighting the clear and present threat was pretty badass. I thought it was in 2007, and I still think it is now. Another funny memory I have of this game is that my 360 red ringed during the kiss scene, which is not a hint of a lie. That really happened. My point is, playing 06 today just doesn't really bother me. I already know what to do to avoid most of the BS. I don't think it's a good game that deserves to be recognized as such. I just don't hate it, and can even enjoy it sometimes for what redeeming qualities it does have thanks to the memories I have of it. And I also felt like 15 years after it came out, it was totally valid to do like an autopsy on the game to really see where it went wrong and also see what the developers were trying to do and what areas showed that they had some kind of a vision that just didn't really come to light in the final product. And I don't see why that is a bad thing. Nostalgia is bad if it blinds you or is weaponized against modernity or whatever, which I said in my nostalgia soapbox video. But enjoying a game from your childhood despite it not being good is completely and utterly harmless. Because I fully own up to its shortcomings and the damage it did to the franchise. Today, my stance on it is actually less positive than it was 5 years ago. Since the fan remake PO6 is so close to being done, I now only see the shit factor when playing the OG game, because everything I liked about it is in PO6 and then some, which is why it's my favorite Sonic game. But while the subject is on Sonic, I want to talk about other Sonic games that aren't considered good that I have dunked on, like Shadow the Hedgehog, for example. One of the most shocking things that happened after I published my video on it in 2020 was the number of people utterly stunned by my saying the game was a failure and was bad, because how can that be? They liked it on the PS2 or GameCube or whatever in 2005, and their friends liked it and everyone played it. I must be some kind of fraud or liar. And it's like, yeah guys, I grew up with this game too. I guess these people were just less online than I was 10 years ago, because Shadow the Hedgehog having a terrible reputation amongst the fans was known to me as early as like 2008. But to many Gen Z fans, I seemingly introduced them to the concept that people don't like this game. The charges against it are that it's difficult to control at high speeds, features missions that are not fun to complete, it's a tedious 10 stories long campaign, it has a nonsensical branching storyline, and a tone that was trying so hard to be serious that it circles back around to being funny. That's pretty much what I was saying about it during that video. I am certainly not lacking in skill in Shadow the Hedgehog. I've unlocked the last story from a fresh file maybe 5 or 6 times in my life, and I've fully A-ranked the entire game twice. I'm pretty familiar with this game. If you like the game or think it's fun because of your memories with it, do that to your heart's content. I'm not stopping you. Wouldn't even dream of it. I just think it's a badly put together game. However, I was playing it again last year because I was replaying the Sonic series on original hardware for footage purposes, and I'm just at the point now where, like, I don't really care anymore, you know? I don't think the game is good when assessing its design, but I didn't have a bad time with it. And this was actually the impetus of this video. Me playing Shadow the Hedgehog and being like, you know, I don't really mind this game. Like Sonic 06, I've seen my fair share of Shadow 05 action, and know the strats and the weapons and all that. I can't pretend to be pissed off while playing this, because I'm not. So all that's left is my experience with it. This was my first ever 3D Sonic game, and so that experience is relevant. This game is always going to be a big part of why I'm a Sonic fan to this day, regardless of whatever bad things I might have to say about it. I love doing the crazy chaos control and space gadget. I think Cosmic Fall is a cool set piece when I'm not waiting on platforms. I can blast through my personal stage route like it's nothing and have a decent time with the levels, as I'm mostly playing as Shadow and Sonic teaming up fighting aliens with guns and other sci-fi weapons. It's kinda cool when you put it like that. My taking a softer tone with this game became solidified with the 2024 release of Shadow Generations that was following up on the story of Shadow 05, even with how unpopular that narrative was, and bringing some legitimacy back to Shadow's character that hasn't really been there in a long time. So I don't have a beef with this game, you know, why would I? Last note on Sonic today is that there are many Sonic games I don't like that others have fond memories of. There were people who grew up with Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric who have told me as such in the comments. As much of a statistical minority as they may be, they exist. And the thing my Sonic Forces video from 2022 talked about at the end has come true. The video where I said this. One thing I always see people talk about is some kind of threat is, oh yeah, the kids who grew up with Rise of Lyric, Fire and Ice and Forces will grow up in a few years and make video essays about how great they were. How you gonna feel then? I don't have an opinion on this matter. I have gotten comments from people telling me that Fire and Ice was their first Sonic game, or that Rise of Lyric was that. If anything, I'm most surprised the kids even played Rise of Lyric given how badly it sold. But hey, good for you! Having positive memories of a game I thought was the most soul-devouring game of all time doesn't speak ill of you or me. But my larger point is, in 7 years or whatever, I will hopefully have more important things to worry about than cowering in fear over someone having a different opinion than me on Sonic the Hedgehog, that many people younger than me will resonate with. It is now 2025, and that video has seen a lot of people talking about growing up with Sonic Forces on Nintendo Switch from 2017. Have to say, I kind of felt like that day I discussed would be far off in the future, but yeah, it makes sense. If you were 7 years old in 2017 when Forces came out and played it, you'd now be going on 15. Enough time to be like, hey, I remember that game, I thought it was fun to create your own character and team up with Sonic. It really makes a lot of sense when you think about it. I mean, the Switch and the PS4 are both big consoles with people of all ages. Picking up Forces isn't that shocking. And as promised, I don't mind this in the slightest. I will always think Sonic Forces is a piece of shit. But you will not catch me saying anyone else shouldn't enjoy it. If you've got positive memories of this game, or even if you didn't grow up with it and do enjoy it, more power to you, it's not for me. When I have a fun and challenging game like Sonic Unleashed to keep playing, you won't catch me playing Forces with boost levels that last 90 seconds on a good day. I just don't like the game. But my point is, you can. Remember what I said. It's not that deep. Games are meant to be enjoyed. But those 3 examples cover the Sonic topic pretty well. So last year I did a video on Resident Evil 6 as a part of my ongoing RE retrospective. In it, I agreed with the common opinion that it was a bad game. Fundamentally, RE6 is the furthest the franchise ever got from its original formula. It was all about action and explosions and quicktime events. I don't have anything against game franchises changing their formula, see my soapbox video on that subject, but RE6 didn't have enough of the series' core DNA for me to say it was fine, which RE4 and 5 did when I covered them. I really wasn't breaking the bank with this analysis, though. Most people thought RE6 was jumping the shark, which is a huge part of why RE7 pulled the series way back in scale and scope. The reason why I'm bringing RE6 up right now is because of something I'm always bewildered by is how, to this day, that video gets comments people very upset at me for not liking it. It's the internet, I shouldn't be too surprised, but specifically, these folks seemingly were upset at me as if I were attacking them for liking it. Perhaps RE6 fans are used to being on defense when the game is critiqued, however, truly, genuinely, if you like the game, live it up. It's not a broken or joyless mess. If it's up your alley, it's up your alley. In fact, I wanted to use this segment to say that since I published that video, I've gone back to RE6 to play the Mercenaries mode. This and the RE4 remake have some of the most fun shooting modes in series history. I got really invested in playing this mode for a while and put like 20 hours into it alone. RE6 has a unique and satisfying combat mechanics that are really fun to toy around with in a mode that's just dedicated to it. When the pacing and the length of the campaign was part of why I didn't enjoy it. I still don't think I would if I played it again, but in a void, these are cool shooting mechanics mixed with acrobatic combat. So even I can enjoy RE6 in its own merits. I just don't think it succeeds as a Resident Evil game. I've had a weird relationship with Devil May Cry 2 as well, in that this game sucks really badly, and everyone agrees with that, but I'm also really good at it. I tried S-ranking one mission as a gag and then kept it going for the whole game and gaslit myself into thinking I actually liked the game to cope with how miserable and frustrating it is. Before I then was like, wait, this game sucks! So now I've just got 6 skills of this fuck-ass game. It happens to the best of us. But sometimes we have a unique relationship with the game that isn't super popular for reasons that are personal to us. I've said it a million times. Mega Man X3 is one of my favorite games of all time, alongside X1, 2, and 4. Most people don't give X3 a second thought, thinking it's mid or kinda okay or bad, but for me, X3 is super important to me. I played the hell out of those first 4 X games back when I was in 8th grade. One of my closest friends was super busy at the time, and then one of my other friends and I were beefing over middle school drama. So I spent most of my time outside of school routing X1 through X4 and then executing my ideas, which is where my least backtracking roots came from. X3 may be a game riddled with problems, but it's always going to be special to me because conquering it is tied to some of my favorite gaming memories, and nothing is going to change that. So in other words, the money I spent last summer on this cartridge I barely used was totally worth it. While on the subject of Mega Man though, I still think X6 sucks and is badly made, but I don't hate it as much as I used to. Through sheer repetition, I've come to find it pretty funny to play because of how broken it is. Something I've gone into in the past. And then, Mega Man and Bass is another super unpopular game I've always liked. I don't even have much to say about this one, I just never got the hate. My video on it was 33 minutes on why I enjoy it, even if people say I'm objectively wrong because it's actually really bad and frustrating. I don't know. That just wasn't my experience with it. But then something weird that gets pulled up whenever I really rake a game over the coals, like say, Ratchet & Clank Size Matters or Secret Agent Clank, is the logic of, wow, if you think this game is bad, you need to play more bad games. For the dozenth time, if you enjoy this game or your memories of it are enough to not mind the flaws that I had with it, or you don't really agree or whatever, fine, I just don't understand this particular statement. I don't think it's an own on me that I don't really relish the idea of playing bad games, because yeah, it's not as bad as Bubsy 3D or Big Rigs, but when I say a game like this is the worst thing, I'm doing so assuming we all already know that Big Rigs over-the-road racing doesn't count. It's not a game that should be seriously considered in the discourse. It's not a get-out-of-criticism free card for a game that's functional, but in my opinion, utterly horrendous. Games can be bad in more than one way. Being a broken, borderline bootleg game is merely the worst-case scenario. And I find the games that are bad for more subtle reasons far more interesting anyway. And then I could also turn this logic on its head and say, yeah, well, you should play more good games and see how much this one sucks by comparison. and I don't think that's fair either. Which of course leads back to the final example of a game I will keep saying I don't like, regardless of how many people like it, Sly Cooper Thieves in Time. But, you know, I don't feel like talking about Sly 4 today.
So that's what that feels like.
But seriously though, I think you probably get the point by now. Through these various examples, I wanted to show my experience with the topic of enjoying bad games. There are games I think are bad that I enjoy, or can tolerate, or can even have a unique experience with. There are games people say are bad that I really enjoy, games I can find appreciation for in a vacuum, or when I put more time into them. But then, with this subject also comes the label of bad games itself. The title of the video is Enjoying Bad Games, however, if you enjoy something, I don't even think you have to say it's bad unless you really think it is deep down. Everyone is entitled to their own gaming opinions and has the right to defend that opinion with evidence, because again, this is about video games, it's not that serious. I might think saying 06 was actually based and everyone else is wrong is a strange take, to say the least, but who am I to stop anyone? So at the end of the day, enjoy what you enjoy. Don't let some dude on the internet like me stop you. I'm not the leading authority on most things, and maybe people can feel less attacked when I say I don't like something because I'm not interested in attacking you. Have fun, play games. It's all good, man. So that's my latest soapbox. Hope the people at home enjoyed it, or found it relatable at all. Feel free to share your experience with the topic down below in the comments. But with that said, I'll close by saying what I always do. If you made it this far into the video, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.